I got my first seed of doubt planted in my mind about what I was doing. Not necessarily. I liked the industry I was in. I liked what I was doing, and that was oil was starting to become a hot topic with investors. It was 55 a barrel when I started, and it's kind of crazy to think that it's 35, full 16-year circular around. Oil's cheaper today than it was then. Crazy, but. It was starting to be on the rise, and very another year and a half, 2 years, oil was eclipsing $100 a barrel, and it was what people wanted to be involved in. So it was like a good business at the time, and I wasn't happy with the track record I saw at the place I was at. I wasn't happy with a lot of things. I thought I could find better. So, and I was starting to become recruited at that point because what breaking that one deal down, that quick is made me believe, dude.
I bet.
I just started believing in my own ability to do this, right?
Yeah, you can tell when someone who's selling you isn't just doing it because it's a job.
Right.
It's almost part of their fabric. It's a game changer.
I was like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. I just learned Kung Fu, motherfucker, right? And it happened fast. So, awesome. And I was like, because like I said at the beginning, I wasn't overly impressed with my peers, that were around me. And my peers, these were the guys. They weren't driving Ferraris and stuff. There's only a few of the guys around there, flossing like that, and they'd use them as recruiting tools.
Exactly.
I figured out the game.
Oh yeah.
A little bit later.
I'm sure you did pretty quick.
How I got sucked into this thing.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I started getting recruited by, other companies because when you can raise money in that business, people start hearing about you, and smaller little offshoot companies. That are looking to put together teams and, of talented people, basically lower human capital, but more, productivity, better efficiency type of stuff. So, I bid on the first one that came around, and it was a pretty impressive guy. I learned a lot from this guy entrepreneurially and from a salesmanship aspect too. But, I started playing the hopscotch game, and which isn't necessarily in my personality, but I'm a feet in the cement kind of guy, right? I like to get dedicated. But for me to effectively do this, I had to believe it. I had to believe in it. If you couldn't show me a track record that was, that I thought was respectable enough to advertise and put my own personal, stamp of approval on it, and then passionately pitch to investors, because boy, it's not some like calm conversation to get somebody to cough up a check like that. That wasn't my style.
You're not just shooting them a text.
No, I mean these days, but no, back in that day, bro, you got on top of the desk and jumped up and down, and I mean it was like Wolf on Wall Street.
Yeah, is
how you sold this deal. And if you didn't put that level of animation into it, that was the difference between a guy making $80,000 a year and a guy that can do whatever, $500,000 more, what. So, really, I did that a couple of times is what it boiled down to. And I kept running. I ran into the same thing over and over again. And I could sell this thing, no doubt, but my belief started kind of going down because oil is a high-risk gig. And for some weird reason, it attracts a lot of funny people and dishonesty. There's dishonest people everywhere, but for some weird reason, it felt like there was a lot of dishonest people hanging out in the oil industry. And it only felt like that to me as a kid because of what was going on in the oil industry, where you've got oil spiking to 100 a barrel and more. Like that in its own right attracted some of the more opportunistic types. And then the opaque nature of that business anyways, like the fact that it's intangible, you can't see it, man. You can't see what's down there. It's super high risk. Everybody knows that. So it's like almost like you can hide behind that, from the promoter standpoint, and almost never assume the responsibility of the failure, and take it like personally, where you can always blame it on something else kind of deal, right? So it was really a bunch of failures that I was attached to that I was like, you know what, man, I can do bad all by myself.
Right?
Like for real. That's how I simplified it, and I was like, I see what you're doing. I mean, the hard part of this is making the 300 calls a day, 400 calls a day, and finding the finding the qualified investors that'll do this thing, qualified financially and crazy. You got to be crazy to do that. So
it's a select demographic.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Got to make a lot of phone calls to find them. And the business end of it didn't seem overly complicated because, from a developer standpoint, you go out there and you hire a geologist, or you go out there and really from some of these investment promoter guys that I had been around, I mean, their idea of entrepreneurship is a glorified salesman. They go out there and find an operating company that's got a prospect that needs somebody to raise money, and they could stamp oil company, by their name all of a sudden and totally leverage this guy, this oil operating company that may or may not do what they say they're going to do with the money. I mean, you're just a glorified salesman at that point. No offense to any salesmen out there, but I have a hard time calling that guy an entrepreneur too, because there's not a whole lot of creativity going on. You're not really creating anything. You're taking somebody else's product, you're putting a markup on it, and you're selling people. All right. Yeah. So I saw that basic construct of an industry, and I was like, that's not rocket science. It was. I could think about that at 25 years old, and I could do it. I knew I could do it. So I said, "See you guys later. I'm going to start my own company." Which, of course, they did the same thing to me at that time that they did when I said, "Hey guys, I need to know how to fill out paperwork because I'm going to sell this guy, and I don't know how to do paperwork." And they laughed at me. You'll be back, right? You're going to do what?
Right.
There was this freaking bizarre concept to them. I was like, I don't know. Maybe you guys are just pussies or something. I don't know. But I'm looking around and I'm like, this doesn't seem overly difficult, right? And
but you had already overcome your fear of fear years prior.
No fear.
And so when you realize, like you've said several times during this podcast, how that elevates you when you compare yourself to your competition. The role fear plays in people's lives is out of control. It's insane. So you're not afraid. I'm going to go start my own thing, and you're off to the race.